Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Complete Sports Media's podcast. I'm your host, Darren Campbell. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time. Today is usually Black Monday. The NHL eliminates a bunch of teams. They don't make it. Usually they fire a bunch of coaches, GMs. Usually it's a pretty tough day for a lot of organizations. And a lot of other organizations celebrate that they've made the playoffs. We're seeing that happen today. We haven't seen a lot of firings yet, other than Dale Cory was removed as general manager in Florida. But so far, that's the only casualty. A lot of really excited teams are making that pool of 16 going into the playoffs. Unfortunately, some other teams found themselves on the outside looking in into this Alexis Lafreniere sweepstakes. I was at a bar yesterday watching the Leafs game, and they started chanting Lafreniere, Lafreniere, Lafreniere when they realized that they were going to lose. And we see it year after year after year. Unfortunately for the Leafs, they never seem to make it. And there's been a lot of talk on Sportsnet, TSN, lots of the radio stations. They're pretty mad. They're pretty upset. They've got such a massive, amazing team, and they have been knocked out again early on. So, yeah, we're going to talk some NHL, obviously, today. First round is behind us, and on to the Sweet 16, as they say. We've got Dale Cory joining us to break it down. Really excited. He joined us on Friday, and we get to see him all the way back on Monday again. So hi, Dale. How are you?
Well, you can't see too much of me. I seem to be a little dark here right now. I'm not sure what to do with my computer, but I think the best Facebook post I saw was social distancing at its best, with the Stanley Cup on one corner and the Maple Leafs logo on the other corner. And that about sums it up these days. I would have loved to have seen Toronto win. I'm a Canuck fan. I'm a Western boy, but that doesn't matter too much. I think having the Leafs still in the Stanley Cup playoffs would have been fun, and being there a hub city and everything, and similar to the Oilers getting knocked out the other night, the other hub city team. So neither one is in the running anymore. Of course, it doesn't really take away from that much. It's not like the fans were that close to the situation anyway. They can't be at the games. But yeah, unfortunate in a way to see Toronto lose yesterday. I thought they were great games. The way the Leafs came back from 3-0 down the other night, and with the score 1-0 and then 2-0 yesterday, you still knew that they had a chance. They get a goal and they're right back in it, but they just couldn't get that break. Austin Matthews hits a goal post, and the next thing you know, it's an empty netter. And John Tortorella was able to talk to the media after again, because he was not in much of a talkative mood after Game 4 the other night.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Yeah. He's definitely had some battles with the media over the years, and he was silent after that fourth game. In the bubble, he doesn't have to get bugged very much. He can just sit down and say, I'm not talking, forget it, I'm out of here. And there's not much the reporters can do from there. But yeah, you mentioned Friday night, one of the most exciting comebacks I've ever seen. I was at a different establishment that night, and we were there actually to watch both the Leafs game and the Canucks game. And, I had them dead and buried. It was golfing season, it was done. They were finished. Yeah. I actually was going to wear this, for a Hawaiian vacation, going golfing. It was done. And then, miraculously, those top players for the Leafs just had the most incredible comeback I've ever seen. They have so much firepower. I just cannot believe they were shut out, in the fifth game after that offensive explosion to get them that victory in Game 4. The place went bananas when that happened. The place went crazy, obviously, when the Canucks won. It was really fun to be out. I hadn't been out in a long time amongst a lot of people at the bars, but yeah, really unfortunate. You think after that offense that they would have been able to get some goals on the board yesterday, but no such luck. And now there's talk, let's trade this guy. Let's get rid of this team. Let's blow this up. It's really too bad.
Well, and these playoffs, I mean, there's got to be an asterisk placed beside it, because it's just such a unique situation given the worldwide pandemic. the fact the playoffs aren't starting until August and the teams were off since mid-March up until July when they went back to training camps, which is normally the time to go golfing and relax, whether you made the playoffs or won the Stanley Cup or whatever the situation may be. So they're unique in so many ways. And I just think of the 16 teams left, I don't really put one at the top and one at the bottom for a chance to win the Stanley Cup. I think it's much more even than it has been in past years. And that makes it such a unique situation right now that I think anybody can win it. And oh, there we are.
Nice.
We have light.
Yay! Light. I can see you.
It's the technological part that I just do not understand. So, but watching the Canucks game the other night, I watched them and how they kept battling back, get a couple goals down, score a couple, get a goal down, score one, and again, and then get the winner in overtime just 11 seconds in, which was so much fun to watch. My son York and I had the jerseys on, almost hit the ceiling jumping up and down when they got that overtime goal. But I look at this Canucks team and think, hey, why can they not have a great chance of winning the Stanley Cup right now? They're young and inexperienced in a lot of ways. A lot of the players, it was their first playoff game, first playoff win, first playoff series win. But you know what? It's all kind of out the window right now, because if you can get on a roll and your young guys start maybe exceeding levels of experience and playing well, I think anybody's got as good a chance as anybody else of those 16 teams of winning the Stanley Cup right now.
Oh, definitely. You're 100% right with this. This is, an unprecedented playoffs. We've never seen anything like this. There's no home ice advantage. Both Toronto and Edmonton were, so those kind of home ice advantage, but they're both gone. The rest of the 16 teams, it's a complete crapshoot. Really, it is. Both number 12 seeds upset the number 5 seeds in both conferences. And the teams that were number 1 seed going in are now number 4 seeds because they were at the bottom of those round robins. So it's just, complete chaos. Nobody's going to have a perfect bracket this year. There's no way that the NHL just knows what's going on. It must be crazy for schedule making. It would have been so difficult for all these teams to have to wait till Sunday to know where they were flying, but they're all, where they're going to play. It's, it always was a disadvantage to the Canucks having to go and travel so much around North America. They have a really, as legitimate a shot as any. I've heard a lot of talk today that St. Louis is actually a really similar team to Minnesota. They dump the puck in and they try to grind it out. They try to get their offense through cycling on the walls and trying to get that puck back out to the middle. Tarasenko is a superstar, a really amazing player, but St. Louis, I think, is beatable. And, they didn't look fantastic in that round robin round. They didn't have a win. Canucks are 2-0-1 with them in the season. So I think the Canucks really have a really legitimate shot to beat this team and keep going into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, St. Louis has lost a little bit from the Stanley Cup winning team they had last year. And again, as we say, it's a different kind of season. You similar to what baseball is like with a 60-game regular season. You can't get off to a slow start. You can't fall behind. You have to keep on winning, and the pressure is on constantly. And certainly in the Stanley Cup playoffs, now that we're into the round of 16 as a normal situation, momentum is going to be key and continue winning. And as you mentioned, there's no home ice. They're all playing in the same building. So it matters not that much, but maybe it's a little easier for the Canucks being a Canadian team. I had a friend, Calgary Flames fan, phoned me yesterday. Who do the Flames play in the next round? And I had to go to the NHL website and look through it for a while, and I still wasn't sure. I could narrow it down to a couple of teams, but it was a tough one to understand with that round robin with the top 4 teams, and then of course the next 8 playing in these best of 5 series to figure out who moved on from there. But it's set. We know who is playing everybody else. There's some great matchups, and I give the Canucks a good shot. I just think they're such a fun, talented team to watch, and different guys are going to excel at different times. But you've got guys like Miller and Toffoli and Beagle, and some of those guys that have been on Stanley Cup winners and successful teams in the past. So they can lend that experience to some of the younger guys. Bo Horvat, I think, is really coming into his own as a captain of this team. Pettersson maybe didn't do as much as far as some of the points, but he was hounded a lot in that opening round by Minnesota as well. Just didn't get the open ice and had some great chances as well. So I just think they're going to get better and better. Against St. Louis, I'd give them a good shot at winning and moving on from there.
Yeah, I sure do too. We can look back at the regular season before the pandemic shut down. St. Louis had won 9 out of 11 going into that. They looked super strong, but they were winless in this round robin round. They never got a win. They didn't look very solid to me. I mentioned Tarasenko. They have Pavelski and O'Reilly, and they have all that Stanley Cup experience. So, a lot of guys know what it takes to go far. And, just last year they can go back on that experience, but they don't look strong coming in. The Canucks won 3 straight after dumping the opening game against Minnesota. They do look strong and fresh. Quinn Hughes is just blowing my mind. I can't believe this, the poise of the kid. We talked about this on Friday. He's just dominating out there. He finds open ice. He finds his teammates. He's just being phenomenal. The Canucks do have some veterans, like you said. Unfortunately, Toffoli and Beagle are a bit banged up, and they're not sure for sure they're going to play the opening game, but there are a little bit of injuries that they're dealing with. But Markstrom had a phenomenal year this year. He didn't look amazing in this series, but I think if he can play strong, the Canucks can still play the same way that they did against Minnesota. And it's going to be a fun series. I see it going, pretty far into the distance, maybe 6 or 7 games. And, I think the Canucks have as good a chance of any to knock off them in the opening round.
Yeah. Well, and I think and we talk about baseball as well with a different kind of season. I think on the goaltenders, it's got to be tougher than everybody because you're so much a reactionary position. You're the last line of defense. But you've got to be so agile. And I think that, the regular players, some of them could do some skating and some of them could do the rollerblading and try to keep conditioned. But as a goaltender, you just don't get that repetition of stopping the pucks, moving side to side in the net and doing all those things. So I think it's tougher on the goaltenders coming out of this, the season that was halted in March and resumed in July with a short training camp before the game. So Markstrom, he learned a couple soft ones the other night. He knows it, and he's he's the kind of player that I think is so tough on himself that wants to perform so well and has a serious amount of pride in performing well for his team. And let's face it, he got them a lot of victories just on his own before the season was halted in March as well. So I expect him to get better and better. I think he's that kind of goalie that can flourish and thrive on that kind of situation. And he'll get better. And, I expect it to be a long series as well. I don't think it's going to be easy for either team. They're going to bash themselves up quite a bit. And there's another telling stat. These guys are used to spending summers and relaxing a little bit, maybe doing some weight training and something like that to keep in shape. Much different than the old days where the boys could go, play golf and sit on the boat and drink beer for 3 months and not even think hockey. That's not the case anymore. They have to stay in training all summer long, but it's a different kind of summer as well. And maybe for St. Louis, they won a Stanley Cup. They won their first Stanley Cup last year. They proved to everybody just how good a team it is. So I mentioned motivation a few minutes ago. To me, it's just so important in all sports, life as well, but in sports as we talk right now. And maybe St. Louis just isn't quite as motivated. It's a different kind of season. If they went through a regular season, they had a chance to win back-to-back Stanley Cups the normal way. Maybe there's a little more motivation there, but I don't know. Maybe it's not there quite as much. They had a chance in that round robin, and as you say, didn't win a game. So maybe the motivation just isn't there this year. They've got that Stanley Cup, and not that they're resting on it, but it's not the same. You don't have as much to go out and prove, and maybe that's to the Canucks' benefit getting into this series.
Yeah. Let's hope. It'd be nice to see. I'm already seeing some Canuck fever here in the city, and we talked about it last week. You start seeing the jerseys, you start seeing the flags, you just start feeling that momentum build, and it's not even it's not even a regular playoffs yet, and there's already that fever. So it's nice. We waited a long time, 5 years, playoff drought. That's way too long in a Canadian city and a market like this that's hockey crazy. So really nice to see. I was actually pretty excited that St. Louis was the opponent. It brought me back some memories of 1996 when Wayne Gretzky got traded there. He wanted to play with Brett Hull. They had an opportunity to play together. They ended up playing together a little bit into the regular season and into the playoffs. They faced the Canucks that year. I got an opportunity to talk to Gretzky every game after every game through that whole playoff round against the Canucks. One of some of the favorite memories I ever had. I couldn't believe how accommodating Wayne was. He would just stand there and talk to you until you had no more questions. That year, I had an opportunity to do a one-on-one interview with him up at the World Cup of Hockey up in the training camp in Whistler. Had a amazing sit-down interview with him. Just found out how phenomenal of a guy he was. It brought me back to such a great memory of that St. Louis Canucks series. And a lot of people don't even know that Gretzky went to St. Louis. If they're not huge hockey fans, they're like, St. Louis? No, he never played in St. Louis. And I'm like, I guarantee he was there for a short time. But it's kind of cool to have those memories.
Yeah, and I remember, and I actually remember you going up to Whistler back then. The memories kind of fading a little bit sometimes with age here, but I do remember all that. It was kind of a strange time for Wayne. I mean, it was just the anniversary a couple of days ago when he got traded to Edmonton. And of course, that was such a major shock and a surprise to everybody in the hockey world and everywhere to see that he had been traded by the Oilers.
Oh yeah, traded to Rangers. You mean? Yeah, you said traded to Edmonton.
Traded
to
the
Rangers,
to the Kings, but then the Rangers and then St. Louis as well. So
the Kings, right. Yeah.
And then after that, St. Louis and the Rangers. So you think of a guy like that and a superstar and arguably the best player that's ever played the game. A lot of times they'll stick with that one team, but then he got bounced a little bit towards the end and spent time with St. Louis and getting to play with Brett Hull would have been a treat for him, obviously. But he was just so accommodating. You remember that of the times you'd see him in the dressing room after a Canucks game, no matter who he was playing with at that point. And it's a sign of a true superstar. I think that he understands the other side of it. Playing the game is one thing, but win or lose, you can't just walk away. There's things to be answered to by the media, by your coaches, by everybody, and you got to stand up, be a man, and answer those questions. So, and he was one of the best at it.
Oh, was he ever? Yeah, just a brilliant guy. Just such a, the greatest of all time, in my opinion, hockey player, but just, phenomenal human being. Just so accommodating. I've had an opportunity to interview athletes in, almost every sport that you could name. And he stands out as just one of the best. So humble, so confident, so humble, but just, give you all the time you ever wanted. And, I can't say enough good things about Wayne Gretzky and all the things. And it was nice to have those memories come up. I'm sure we're going to see that in some of the local broadcasts. They'll bring up those memories of the Canucks play in St. Louis, and it was really a lot of fun. So I was actually quite shocked. I watched the game between St. Louis Dallas yesterday, and whoever won that game was going to play Calgary, and whoever lost was going to play. I think it was whoever lost was going to play Vancouver, and they were really fighting it out. 31 seconds left. Dallas ended up scoring, putting it into overtime, and won it in a shootout. And I was like, okay, maybe they don't even know who they want to face, or maybe they just know they want to win. They kept showing Tyler Seguin in the crowd, and he was cheering, and he was super happy when whenever Dallas was scoring. He had no opportunity to play that day, but they were really fighting. They wanted to play Calgary, if they knew that was going to be their opponent. So that surprised me because Calgary's been touted as having a better team than the Canucks, and but that game they were really fighting hard to win and get an opportunity against Calgary instead of Vancouver.
Yeah, and I guess it's tough. I mean, you can't explain how it is. I mean, teams have maybe not gone 100% at times in certain situations if you wanted to face somebody else in the playoffs, but it's really tough to do that. And I think it could be detrimental in the long run if you kind of take it easy to get a different opponent in the next playoff round. You got to play your heart out every game. And certainly it was the case. I've watched parts of it and was watching the golf as well yesterday. I know we'll chat about that in a second, but I didn't see the end. I was like, I got to get out on the KVR trail and go for a nice bike ride in the sunshine in the Okanagan. So I did that and then came back and watched the rest of the golf after. I figured I could live without that little bit of hockey.
No doubt. Yeah, I get you. Yeah. I saw actually a couple of your pictures. It's beautiful trail. And I've walked it. Yeah, I'd love to be able to go and bike on it with you one day soon. So,
Yes.
yeah. So I talked about Calgary and Dallas. That's going to be an interesting series. Calgary's 6th seed, Dallas number 3. Very tight defensively. Dallas, one of the best defensive teams in the league. Calgary, had some good luck in a sense, because the Jets players were injured and they were able to knock off Winnipeg fairly quickly in 4 games. Calgary, has some really high-end talent scoring some goals. Do you think they have a chance to beat Dallas?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've got something to prove, especially after the successful season they had last year and then getting bounced in the opening round by Colorado. So I think they've really got something to prove. And there was a bit of controversy when Scheifele and Laine went down in that opening game, and especially Scheifele, and Winnipeg wasn't happy about it. I didn't think it was that bad a play and a vicious kind of play. I think they just went into the boards and things went wrong and got a skate up on the ankle there. But I don't think it was intended that way too much. But Calgary's got something to prove, and a good hockey team as well. So it's going to be fun to watch them. They're pretty set all the way across. They're pretty strong that way, and probably a little bit more experience than the Canucks have as well. So I know it would take a little bit for the Canucks and Flames to be in the Stanley Cup playoffs at this point, but I would not mind that series one bit. I think it would be so much fun, and especially with Edmonton and Winnipeg now eliminated, it's the Canucks and Flames as the only 2 teams left out this way anyway, and then Montreal in the East. So unfortunately, 3 of the 6 Canadian teams got the boot in the first or in the qualifying round and eliminated. So there's only 3 left in Canada, and a Calgary-Vancouver series would be a good one, but of course they both got some work to do until then. But I like Calgary in this series. I think even though Dallas is a little higher rated, and Tyler Seguin is a tremendous hockey player and leader, I like Calgary's chances against Dallas as well.
Yeah. Well, they have that toughness factor. Some of those injuries were just due to Calgary constantly taking the body and really coming in on the forecheck. And Calgary's a tough team, and they do have something to prove after last year's exit against Colorado. And they're looking strong. So let's hope they can do well against Dallas. The other 2 series in the West are Chicago, Vegas. Chicago had the huge upset against the Oilers. Yeah. We still, talk about Taves and Kane there. And, they've got 3 Stanley Cups to fall back on that experience. Yeah. Pretty amazing organization being able to still do it, at this level. Facing Vegas, Vegas was 2-1 against Chicago this year. They look strong. They were undefeated in that opening seeding round. Do you think Chicago can do something and upset Vegas?
I think there's potential there. And Kane and Taves played very well against Edmonton, and Taves especially. I mean, just, the leadership that those guys show year after year. And they just, Chicago, they just lost a little bit over the years since those Stanley Cup Championship teams. They're still a pretty good team. I know there's a lot of fans in Penticton here, with Duncan Keith being a former Penticton V. You don't like him when the Canucks are playing against Chicago, but at this point, there'll be fans cheering for him. Tyson Jost with Colorado is still in it, another former V who's played very well. Had a hat trick earlier when the season was still going on. So I like Chicago. I think that they've got a good chance. Vegas just hasn't quite had the season that they had, in the last couple of years, where they seemed to peak a little bit. But Chicago, I guess you just never count them out, because there's still a lot of talent on that team. And I think they could knock them off. But those key guys, Kane and Taves, are going to have to be at their very best, I think, to do it.
Yeah, they have to be their best players, definitely. Corey Crawford wasn't fantastic. He had one of the lowest save percentages of any team. Being able to take a team and advance them in the playoffs for a really long time. I think since I don't know, I think I heard Brodeur or something way back. Really long time. We'll see. That shakes down to be a pretty interesting series. And the other one is number 2 ranked Colorado facing Arizona, number 7 ranked Coyotes. Arizona kind of upset Nashville. I don't think they were favored against Nashville. This is their first playoff meeting since 2000. They're playing Wednesday afternoon to start their series. I definitely would favor Colorado in this one. What about yourself?
Yeah, I would have to agree. With McKinnon, Landeskog, and some of the guys that they've got, those veteran players, just always so impressed with them. And I always think back, and I know we texted a while ago when the hockey season was still on, and to me, After Hours on CBC is one of the best shows out there. Scott Oak just does a tremendous job in getting to the heart of what these players are all about. We know their hockey careers that way, but he seems to unseat something else about that player. And he had Gabriel Landeskog on last winter, and I was just so impressed with this young guy and what he does and how he's in the fabric of the community and understands things and just shows himself as a team leader, which is just so huge. And I mentioned Bo Horvat a while ago, and he's really developed into that kind of team leader. You don't know what it's like in the dressing room that much, but a lot of times he leads by example and pushes his teammates to be better players. And Landeskog certainly accomplishes that for Colorado. I like Colorado. I think the seeding really, I don't think plays an important role if one is seeded second and one seventh or whatever the case may be. I just think that they've started to develop, and the Canucks might be about a year behind where Colorado is, and that they had some tough lean years and started to build things back up, and the Canucks are in that same boat these days. So I like Colorado. I think they've got a good chance of moving on.
Yeah, no, I agree. They got a lot of top end talent, and they seem to have really built a really good foundation there, and they're looking strong. I think it's going to be. I think Colorado should take it. You're right about the seeding. I'm just throwing out numbers, just make sure everybody's aware where they come in at the seeding. But Vegas scored 15 goals. By far and away the most in that seeding round, 3-0, looking good. We'll see if they can keep it up going into the first round of the playoffs here. Let's turn to the Eastern Conference. There's some, really interesting matchups here. Why don't we turn to Montreal and Philly right away? Montreal upset Pittsburgh, huge upset, number 12 against number 5. Everybody said early on, hey, let's have 3-game series instead of 5-game series. And they said, no, we can't do that because Carey Price, he can upset us in 3-game series. He proved to do it in a 5-game series, and he might have been able to do it in a 7-game series. Amazing player. Montreal, has just a lot of guys that are just unheralded, but, can pull out a win. They're facing the Pennsylvania cousins to the Penguins, the Flyers. The Flyers looked really great and went from 4th to 1st in that seeding round. They scored 11 goals, only let in 3, 3-0 in that round robin round. They've got some really, really good top end talent as well. And Alain Vigneault, I really respect him as a coach. I like the Flyers. They won, I think, 9 out of 10 going into the break, so that they could get into that seeding round. They were placed in 4th. I think they're looking really good. Voracek is a maybe for the beginning of the series, so that's a blow. He's one of their top D-men, but this is going to be an interesting series, Montreal and Philly, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Montreal surprised so many people, and so did Philadelphia. So it's two teams that recorded or upsets or advanced themselves up the standings by playing good in that qualifying round and the mini round robin. So I think it's going to be a good one. Carey Price, man, what do you say about that guy? He just wins games for his team, and when a goalie does that, it scares the other guys. It truly scares the other guys because they get the feeling we could have 50 or 60 shots on it, and if we only beat them twice and they score 3 against us, we're still going to lose. So he wins games on his own. It's a hard-working Montreal team in front of him with not a lot of superstar talent, but that guy in the net can win games for them. So you're always scared as an opponent. And from Philadelphia's standpoint, I mean, they're playing well right now, and nobody knew when you got into this with a qualifying round or the round robin what certain teams would do. We saw teams that were higher up in standings fall by the wayside, whether preparation wasn't as good or they just didn't adapt to a training camp in July and playoff hockey in August, whatever the case may be. Some of them aren't playing hockey anymore right now. So so that's going to be a good series. I'll have a tough time predicting the winner. I think Philadelphia might be a bit of a better team at this point, but again, Carey Price can take them on their back and win a series. So it's a bit of a toss up there.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, I find hockey to be one of the only team sports where one guy could actually win you games, win you a series. They talk about basketball, but LeBron James, one of the greatest ever, Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan needed Scottie Pippen. He needed Rodman. He needed Horace Grant. We see LeBron James. He needs Anthony Davis. He needs more guys. He makes a massive difference, but hockey, if a goalie gets hot, he can take a team and win a championship for them. We've seen it with Dominic Hasek, amazing example of a guy that took a Buffalo team way farther than they probably would have been if he wasn't there. And it's an interesting position that, if you get a guy hot and he's a phenomenal goalie, he can win a series, he can win a championship for you. And Carey Price is a guy like that. And I know Montreal's happy to have him. They've got a pretty balanced team. We'll see if they can face the Flyers, who are really a high octane offensive team and usually try to outscore you all the time. And that's going to be fun. I'm excited. I think it's going to be great. Let's turn to the Blue Jackets, Toronto's least favorite team now, facing the Lightning. Lightning are a bit banged up. Steven Stamkos has been hurt. They've had some injuries to their back end as well, and they're a bit banged up. But strong team in the regular season. Obviously, got knocked off by Columbus last year, and they get an opportunity at a rematch. It's kind of cool to see. We'll see if Torts can pull off the win again against them. Pretty interesting that they're facing each other again like this.
Well, redemption's always a key motivator for any team when you play that team again the next year in the playoffs after losing to them. And Tampa's got a good team. They just have had strong teams for so many years now. Columbus is on that bit of a roll, having come through against Toronto, but still, I mean, you still have to question some parts about their game when they gave up the leads that they did. I mean, each team won in overtime. Each team gave up 3-goal leads late to lose, and then they came up with a 3-0 shutout to win. But from what they showed in Game 4, they're beatable. And even with a 3-goal lead, if you pressure them and push them at the end, you might still get a chance to come back and tie and win the hockey game. John Tortorella is an interesting coach. I always liked him. I've always enjoyed his approach to things. He's so passionate about the game. He didn't last long in Vancouver, unfortunately, I think, but I like what I like that they get the guy that they've got behind the bench now a lot, and I think he's good for the team. But Tortorella, I think he probably wears out his welcome a little quicker than some coaches because he can really get on players. And there was always talk about about him and the Sedins not really getting along. And I don't know if that was the case. The Sedins after seemed to have a lot of appreciation for John Tortorella, but he's got to be a tough coach to play for, but I'm sure he could also be a fun coach to play for because I think he gets on the side of his players. Unfortunately, and you can understand it when they lose a game like they did in Game 4 with the overtime loss to the Leafs, he doesn't have much to say to anybody. He can be very moody that way. And that's got to have an impact on what happens in the locker room at times as well, I'm sure, for in this case, the Columbus Blue Jackets. So I like Tampa. I think Tampa's just too good a team right now to lose to Columbus and especially 2 years in a row in the playoffs.
Yeah. You're right. Well, I'm glad you're a fan of Tortorella. I can't say the same. I still think like a media member, and I feel like he's disrespectful to the media. Sometimes I think people, to people it comes off as fun and, ha ha ha. But, I just don't think that he respects the media enough like he should. They're just doing their job and they're just going in there to try to talk to him, trying to get some quotes from him. He can be really, really nasty. He can, just leave you with nothing to do. And, you're going to get in trouble from your boss because you didn't get any quotes. It's a little bit hard on the media side of things for John Tortorella. We see it with some coaches in the other sports. He's one of the hardest. And, I don't like him for that reason. You know, I respect what he's done in the game. I don't think he did a good job here, and you know, I was kind of happy to see him go because I didn't think he brought a lot to the Canucks. I thought Vigneault was doing a great job, and you know, I wish they didn't go in a different direction there. But yeah, like I say, you know, if he treated the media better and he still acted the way he acted, I think I'd have a lot more respect for him. But he's not good with the media at all.
No, and I don't disagree with you there. It's got to be tough if you're a beat writer, reporter, and you're covering the team on a daily basis. It's almost like asking Trump a question these days. You're a little nervous about hearing it because you don't know what kind of reaction you're going to get. Sometimes you're asking it for the reaction as well. You know, I think sometimes the reporters can maybe go too far with some of it. But for the most part, I do totally agree because he's not good that way. He is standoffish at times that way, and just the response that he gives is short, and he goes after the reporters. I mean, it's one thing to say, well, I don't agree with you, or here's why we did a certain thing, but a lot of times he wants to get into that controversial argument with a reporter, and that just doesn't help the game at all either. So, but I agree with the Alain Vigneault part. I'm a huge Vigneault fan. I just thought he was so good to so many people. And was very much a player's coach. He smiled, he had fun, and that showed, I think, with his players. And yeah, unfortunately, the Canucks, you know, management went a different direction a few years ago in letting him go. But he was one of my favorites. I liked Alain Vigneault. I just he had a smile a lot. He could be open, and one of the funniest, I think, was with him on the bench and Vern Fiddler skating by and imitating Kevin Bieksa, and the laugh that came from Alain Vigneault is priceless.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, amazing. Yeah, so funny. He just had a lot of fun coaching. He made it fun for the players. You know, that Tortorella thing, unfortunately, he just brought up some old wounds for me when Mike Keenan came in. He also came from the Rangers. He also came in, and he was just terrible to deal with. And I think I still hadn't healed all the scars from the confrontations I had with Keenan. And then I see this, you know, little Tortorella guy coming in and trying to act the same way. And it just definitely rubbed me the wrong way. And, you know, he's still up to the same antics. You know, I thought he would grow up after, you know, getting fired in lots of places. I thought he would, you know, be a little easier to deal with, but you know, he hasn't changed much in that. And we saw him, you know, yelling at a guy on the bench. The guy ended up scoring a hat trick the next game, but you know, it's still not appropriate to yell to you know, there's a guy, he's trying his best. There's no way he's not, and you know, you're going to yell at him right in front of everybody. It's not respectful. I don't think it's not good.
Well, and there's I mean, we can appreciate the amount of pressure on a professional coach these days: hockey, football, baseball, basketball. You know, we look at those four main ones that we're used to. It's a tremendous amount of pressure. They make big money these days. There's also a lot of pressure to win, because if you don't win, you won't be there anymore. And a lot of times they can get a jump somewhere else. So motivation is a key. I mean, every coach is different, and he's got to motivate his players. He's got to get the most of them every single game. And that's not easy. You're talking about, you know, high talent that also can be, you know, have other interests, or just not, you know, the level of their commitment to the game of hockey, even at the NHL level, can be vastly different. So, and they all perform differently, whether it's on the road or at home, or problems at home, you know, make it difficult for them to play the game, things like that. So a lot of pressure on the coach to do those kinds of things. You use whatever tactic I think you have in your arsenal to try to get the most out of the players. And Tortorella certainly runs the gamut as far as trying to pick out something to motivate a hockey player.
Yeah, you're sure. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right about that. He tries his best. Yeah, and has some interesting methods. But yeah, we'll move on. Let's talk about the last two series briefly. We just got Carolina, Boston. Carolina ended up sweeping the Rangers, so they've had the longest break out of anybody. Boston went from first in the NHL, 100 points when the pandemic hit. They didn't do good in that round robin. They were 0-3, only scored 4 goals, let in 9. You know, I know we've said many times through this call, does that matter? It might not. Carolina looks strong going in, and Boston doesn't. It's the same as the way the Canucks in St. Louis were. Don't know if that's going to change the series. What do you see happening at Carolina, Boston?
I think it's maybe going to be one of the better series in this opening round of the playoffs. I think they're pretty closely evenly matched. I love the kind of coach Rod Brind'Amour is and what he's done. Remember watching him in the Saskatchewan Junior League years and years ago, and a talent from Vancouver Island who's done well to motivate his players. He's a younger coach, and I think he just has that good rapport with them that sometimes coaches kind of lose as they get a little older and away from their years as a player in the NHL. So I think he's got some good talent there, and they've had some good playoff runs the last couple of years and been kind of creeping up and getting better and better. And you can understand, St. Louis, Boston didn't play well in that little round robin. If you're playing for home ice advantage, real home ice advantage, playing your games in front of your home fans in a normal year, I think things are a little different as well. But when you know that other than maybe getting the higher seed, which only gets you last change as far as any real difference in the games and the color of the uniform you wear on any given night. But it's that last change, which is the important thing for the coaches. So essentially, that's all they were playing for with their seeds at this point. They're in the same building. There's no fans there. The piped music and cheering and everything is the same for both teams. But I think Carolina-Boston's going to be a good one. It wouldn't surprise me to see Carolina win that one. I think Boston obviously had a good team through the regular season, but Carolina is playing good hockey right now. So I can kind of see them winning that series.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I'd love to see the bunch of jerks knock off the Bruins, the big bad Bruins, bring back the storm surge and the bunch of jerks and stuff. Carolina's fun. I like that team. I like the makeup of them, and they've been great for hockey. It's been a market that I didn't think a lot of people really realize it would work, but I think they've definitely made it a very popular attraction for the people down there. I have some family down there, and not very many people knew about hockey before Carolina arrived, and I like that organization. I loved that storm surge. I loved all that stuff. I know Don Cherry hated it, but it was really fun for the fans and great for that city. Really rallied the whole city around that team.
Yeah, well, Rowley's really come to appreciate him, I think, and it's new down there, so they have to do different things. And I always think back to when I was doing a Regina Pats play-by-play, and the Tri-City Americans came in the Western League, and I think Brandon had been there. Regina always does its Western road trip in November, in November, most of the time. So we went through Tri-Cities, Kennewick, Richland, and Pasco, and it was, I think, the second game they'd ever played. Brand new building, beautiful building. But they had to, but it was a different kind of thing. They announced if there was an offside or an icing, they had to tell the fans everything. So you have to appreciate new markets, and especially some of the markets down south where they're not hockey markets. It doesn't mean they don't love the sport and they can't support it well, and it could be a viable market and a Stanley Cup contender as well. So, but it's different, and you have to open up to all that. I love what they did at the end of the games in Carolina. It showed that, to me, it's a place where players would like to go and play. And you can think, hey, how great it would be to go play in Tampa or Arizona or Florida. But they're not hockey cities. I'm going to think most hockey players, as much as they would love to go, spend their entire year in a sunny market, warm market, they'd sooner play in a hockey market where there's fans on the street that care about the game, whether it's Toronto, Vancouver, and sometimes it gets a little too crazy. But I'm sure the players would appreciate that. But Carolina's grown into a good hockey market, and that's the key thing. They're a successful team and look like they could be that way for many years to come.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, I totally agree with everything you say. And it's great. Vegas did that when they came in. Lots of pomp and circumstance around their games, and they've made it something super popular. And I don't think a lot of people thought they would make it. They thought most of the stands are going to be filled with people that are getting free tickets from casinos and all the snowbirds that are down there, and that's all that's going to be. But with Vegas' success immediately and all the fun they had around the game, like you say, you were down there, you saw people walking around with Vegas jerseys, and it's great. NHL has always wanted to break in heavily to the U.S. market and make it more of a sport that Americans care for. Those other three sports just take over so much attention and so much media exposure, and hockey's always fighting for it. But when they're breaking into markets like this and they're doing really well and having tons of success and getting a fan base, it's great for the game. It's just great for the sport. It's really good.
Yeah, it grows it in so many ways, and especially in some of those markets where they don't have other pro teams. I mean, Vegas has got the football team coming in that new stadium, Legion Stadium, was fabulous. But Carolina is one of those places where hockey is it. Buffalo's got a football team, but hockey is so huge there, and part of it is just the climate and geographical location of the city as well. But you build it, and they'll get excited about it. And as we talked, I was in Vegas in November, and Leafs were there that night. The amount of Vegas jerseys, and people just maybe not even fans, not even going to games, but they became fans of the Golden Knights and support them and want to see them win. And watching the sports highlights on TV that night, they were front and center every night. So it's fun to see. You want to build it into markets where there can be a good hockey base and maybe the only game in town. And I think the NHL's been successful in building some of those, and Carolina is one of them.
Yeah, you're right. And, we talked about Seattle last week. We see that as a new market, and we're hoping that all the things that they do. I've been impressed with so many things that the Seattle Kraken have done. They've got amazing front office staff, amazing coaching staff. They hired their first black play-by-play announcer, which they just announced the other day. Really great move on their part. They've got so much diversity in their management staff, and they're still a whole year out from playing, and we're going to be lucky to see another emerging market so close. We can go down there and watch games and cheer on the Canucks, and see that. I'm hoping that they do a lot of the same things down there, and as they have in Vegas and Carolina and a lot of those other markets. It's going to be great. I can't wait. Islanders and Washington is the only series we haven't covered yet. Islanders knocked off the Panthers really quick, 3-1, and Washington just finished 1-2 in that round robin. Five goals, 7 losses. Third place in that. Washington obviously winning that couple of seasons ago. They've got Ovechkin, who's deadly at any moment in any game. He's always taking about 6, 8, 10 shots a game. He's got Tom Wilson, who's a phenomenal talent and a tough player. Oshie, they've got tons of talent there. I see Washington being able to take out the Islanders, but the Islanders have been emerging. Ever since John Tavares left, some reason they've been able to assemble a really good team there, and I think it could be an interesting series. I see Washington probably taking it, but what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, Everly's played pretty well. Barzal's played well. They're emerging players. I mean, Everly's been around for a while, but Barzal is really impressive as far as what he has done so far for them. Might be a closer series than some people expect. Washington might have the upper hand a little bit just from being a defending or a Stanley Cup champion 2 years ago, and having Ovechkin in the lineup can do that. But they're pretty good rivals. They're close proximity. Even though it doesn't mean going back and forth with games in the building. It would be fun if that was the case, but it's I think going to be a close series as well, and maybe one of those toss-ups. Washington might have a bit of an upper hand, but that one as well, it could be going 6 or 7 games, and at that point you just don't know who can have that upper hand at the end.
Yeah. We've we reached the expand or the draft day. They're doing the draft any moment here. They said about 3:00 Pacific time, and that's where we're sitting at. We'll keep our eye on the Alex Lafreniere sweepstakes here. Why don't we touch on that? As I said, I was at the bar, and Leafs fans were cheering for that. I know that most of Canada definitely doesn't want the Oilers to win that. They got number 1 overall draft pick 4 out of 6 years, 2010 to 2015. I know that a lot of Canada would be upset if the Leafs got it. But there's some really talented teams that are, in the running for this. 8 teams. We got Edmonton, Pittsburgh, New York Rangers, Leafs, Winnipeg Jets, Nashville, Minnesota, and Florida all in it. It'll be, amazing to either or any organization that gets this kid, 2-time winner of the MVP of the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League. For you people who don't know, only other player to do that was Sidney Crosby from the same team, Rimouski. And imagine Pittsburgh wins this and gets him. Wow, there's so many scenarios. We're only a few minutes away, but pretty amazing for so many organizations here.
Yeah, well, and he just showed so much, especially in the World Juniors last year, getting injured and then coming back. And Lafreniere is a huge talent, and he's one of those guys that's been ID'd for a few years as a top pick and a can't miss, and a guy that can help whatever team he goes to immediately. And but you look at those teams, I mean, disappointed a day or two ago in losing out in the qualifying round. And now all of a sudden they could have one of the best players to come out of the draft in a few years on their team. So you look at, a Winnipeg or the Rangers or some of those teams that wouldn't have had that much of a chance. So, to go to Pittsburgh and get together with Sidney Crosby. The Oilers, I mean, they've had way too many first round picks and haven't been able to do anything with it. So let's not waste an Oilers pick in picking Lafreniere. Somebody else needs to have him other than the Oilers.
I think there'll actually be a huge public outcry, and I think they'll actually change the whole draft. If the Oilers do win, I think they'll say that if you win number 1, you can't get number 1 for 3 years, 5 years, something like that. I think, anybody that's outside of Edmonton is sick of that. And like you say, they haven't done much. They got Taylor Hall, Nugent Hopkins, Yakupov, Connor McDavid, and they've only made the playoffs one time in that whole long stretch we've seen. They got Draisaitl number 3 even. They've had enough opportunities to build that team, and it would be just terrible for the NHL if they win it. Let's hope it doesn't change hockey and this happens. But it's going to be interesting for any organization. Because he is a talent. He helped Canada win that gold medal in the Czech Republic. He had 4 goals, 6 assists, 10 points in 6 games, and looked just super impressive. His stats in junior were 35 goals, 112 points in 52 games. What a talent. A lot of these teams, they don't need that offense. They're looking actually needing the defense, especially we saw with the Leafs and we saw with the Oilers. Maybe it doesn't work out if he goes there, even though. It's going to be an interesting day. And that draft's going to happen momentarily. So I'll let you know if they make an announcement any minute here.
Sounds good. Yeah, and it's kind of the key thing about a draft in any of the major sports, and especially basketball, football, hockey. We're watching those 3 a little bit more. But the guy that's ID'd is the best talent. Sometimes it might be a little even, and teams can go more offensively, defensively, or goaltender depending on who's out there. But in some cases, when there's one guy pegged as the top guy, you look at Toronto, you can say, hey, they got a lot of offense there. Now, obviously, didn't show in Game 5 yesterday, so that means they still don't have enough. But they could probably use more defensive help than they could offensively. So, and the Oilers, I mean, their scoring is pretty much limited to McDavid and Draisaitl, so they could certainly use another talented offensive threat up front. But whether they could utilize him enough or get him in the right direction to help the hockey teams, maybe another question there. So it's going to be interesting to see who he goes to.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it's going to take a couple more months for these playoffs to be over with. This NHL is definitely a league where a lot of teams copycat. Once a team has success and wins a cup, then a lot of teams decide to do that. With some of these, huge teams going out, obviously Crosby and Malkin, McDavid and Draisaitl, with the Leafs, Tavares and Matthews, they've got these 2 elite talents. But with the salary cap world, can you build a team that can be successful in the playoffs? Might have regular season success, but success in the playoffs is what they're all striving for, really, in the end. And they just don't seem to have the balance. So maybe, you know, you can't build a team like the Blackhawks did, like the Kings did, you know, having these two top high-end guys. Obviously, Penguins have won some cups with Malkin and Crosby, but can these other teams do it in this salary cap world, especially with the salary cap staying flat and probably being flat for a few years because of the economy? They're, you know, not going to bring in a lot of dollars this year. I don't know. We'll see who emerges as a Stanley Cup champion and how the NHL changes. It might be a completely different world in a few seasons.
Yeah, well, and the Canucks might be a classic example of where that could head down the road. I mean, with you know, Pettersson still on that first contract, Besser's going to be in line for something. Quinn Hughes, Pettersson, there's and Horvat, some of those key guys. So you can only keep so many of them, and it's the balancing act. And the general manager probably got the toughest job. He knows he's only got so much to spend, and how do you spend that? Obviously, thinking of the Canucks player that makes like $6 million a year, who they signed.
You mean Toffoli, or do you mean JT Miller, or Tanner Pearson?
Erickson.
Okay. Erickson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you know, he's making tons of money and not really performing as well. You know, when they signed him out of Boston as a free agent, he just hasn't given them you know, what they expected. So sometimes you take a gamble that way and you spend too much money in a player and it costs you for a couple of years. So it takes away from maybe signing another player. So it's an interesting puzzle to try to put together with that limited amount and keeping your up and coming players happy and keeping them in a uniform for your hockey team. It's never an easy balancing act.
Yeah, the NHL, you know, I think dropped the ball on the way they had this draft. I think they should have waited till the end of the playoffs and just did it normally. They had this really weird format, and then all of a sudden, you know, Daly's holding up a sign that says, you know, to be announced later. This is a place setter position. You know, but then I thought, okay, well, they have a second opportunity to bring more eyeballs to it. Great, but I think they're dropping the ball on this again. They have these 8 ping pong balls being in there, but only 1 ping pong ball's coming out. They say you got it, and then the other teams just finish in the way they finish in the regular season. They could do a reverse order thing, and you know, it'd be a lot of fun for, you know, they could make it an hour-long TV show, and a lot of people will be, you know, really into it. And you know, I don't understand who would think that just having only 1 ping pong ball coming out and saying, "Oh, they're the winner, everybody else is loser. See you later, goodbye." Like, what are they thinking? I don't get it.
Well, and it's meant to build up a TV audience to some degree for those few minutes anyway, and you can somewhat understand that as the draft lottery comes through. But it's going to be a little anticlimactic as well. I think that one team is going to have it, and then it's pretty much done from there. So they're going to have to rethink it, I think, to some degree.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's hope before we're finished off the air, we can make that quick announcement. And they're showing some highlights and things like that right now. But anyway, well, that's it. That was a great first little qualifying round, round robin. You know, nice to see that in the rearview mirror, because now we get the real playoffs. You know, the traditional 4 rounds. You know, 16 teams. You know, the amazing hockey. There was a little bit lacking of intensity in some of those round robin games. That's it, all thrown out the window. We're going to see the real playoff hockey, the most intense hockey that's ever created. You know, we're excited here. You must be excited there. Let's go. Let's bring it on. I can't wait for tomorrow and Wednesday. And you know, so many of these games are coming. I'm glad they're starting games at noon now instead of 9, because you know, I can you know, have a bit of a morning before I have to start watching all the games. But let's go, bring them on.
Well, and it's not going to be easy for the players as well, because you can have those games that start at noon. And I know the Canucks game the other night, it was after 8 o'clock till it started, because the first game had gone into overtime and took a little bit longer, and they didn't want to start it until that one was over, or give it some time anyway and bounce it off on the Sportsnet channels. But you know, it's not easy on a player. You're used to playing night games for the most part in hockey. The odd, you know, day game on a Saturday or Sunday. Baseball is a little different. You can have games all over the place. So So you're gonna have to get yourself motivated in a lot of ways. I know the Canucks, I think the first couple are night games, and they go to I think a 3:30 start. So they've got an earlier game in there. You know, you're in the same place. You're walking across the street to the arena from your hotel. So things are, I think, much more calmer in that everything is set. You don't have a lot of flexibility in things like you might if you're traveling back and forth from city to city, airports, hotels, and everything else, and home, which they're not getting right now. So I think it's going to be fun to watch. As we mentioned, it's on much more of an even keel, I think, than we've seen in years. They're all in the same building. They don't have fans there and all of that. So teams are pretty much the same, and I think talent might just, you know, show itself much more than some other years, because you don't have the getting tired from travel and everything else that goes with it, and especially in Vancouver's case, having to travel so far all the time. So I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun. Bring on the Canucks games.
Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, me too. Yeah, let's go. Playoffs are here. Most exciting couple months on the sports calendar, and yeah, you know, 2 months from now, we're going to see a new Stanley Cup winner emerge, and it'll be something nobody ever forgets, because this 2020 has been the craziest year in all of our lives. And you know, everything's different. Everything's, you know, really topsy-turvy, but it's going to be a real true champion. There's not going to be an asterisk. It's going to be somebody that's, you know, highly valued in 2020 to win this cup. It's going to be one of the hardest undertakings that anybody's ever done.
You know, we have fans to our own sports. We cheer for those teams when they lose in the playoffs. You're not too happy with the other team, but I just never cheer against anybody else, even if it's, you know, a hated team like the Blackhawks or the Flames or the Oilers or something. I don't really cheer against each other or anybody else, but I love to see when a team wins a championship and they celebrate. You know, it wasn't so easy in 2011 when Boston won it, of course. You didn't want to see that, but it is what it is. And that's just such a cool thing to see. It's fun to watch people win, teams and individuals in sports. It's fun to watch them win a championship like that. It's to me the best part of sports. We can all celebrate it that way. If your team is the one to lose, it's not quite so easy. But other than that,
yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, it sure was. Yeah, no, you're right. You know, it's just one of the greatest things about sports, seeing, you know, people achieve lifelong dreams. They, as a kid, you know, get tuned into a sport somehow through their parents or their grandparents or their buddies or whoever. You know, usually it's some parents that take them to a course, take them to a rink, take them to a court, you know, baseball field, whatever it is. And you know, they get a love of that sport. And a lot of them, you know, can, you know, think of themselves hoisting the Stanley Cup, hoisting the, you know, the Masters trophy, the PGA Championship, and, you know, start dreaming about it, start thinking, yeah, I want to do this one day. And to see, you know, somebody achieve that lifelong dream is just phenomenal. It's exciting. Every time the team wins the Stanley Cup, a lot of people leave the building. A lot of people turn the TVs off. I watch to the very bitter end. I want to see, you know, every single guy hoist that Stanley Cup and skate around with it, you know, achieving that lifelong dream. And usually he has his, you know, very close, you know, family with him. And they know how much, you know, of a struggle it was. They had to wake up early and take him to practice and, you know, go through all the fundraisers and all the trips and all the things that, you know, a parent has to go through to get their kid, you know, into sports and to that level. You know, it's just the beauty of sports. It's just something that is so nice to see somebody achieve a lifelong dream.
Yeah. Well, and I know watching the St. Louis Blues win it last year, they had a lot of kids from Saskatchewan on that team, and you know, didn't know them, you know, grew up playing minor hockey and then moved into the media and did play by play in Yorkton, Swift Current, Regina, and Saskatoon. So you get accustomed to those kids and you have a better sense, I think, of what they went through growing up to get to that point, and all the things that you just mentioned. It takes so much from the player himself to the parents to family to coaching and the opportunities and everything that goes with it. And I think we're all the same. We all play ball, we play hockey, we love to golf, and you always, you know, more as a kid, envision yourself in that situation. Talent dictates that you go another level, and we got into the media a lot more because we love sports so much and we like to talk about it, write about it, and everything else. So But you still, your mind wanders at times, and you think, hey, how cool would that be? And to watch it on the faces of young kids is to me tremendous. It's the best feeling.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, it is the best feeling, and you can just imagine the feeling that you would have if you're able to do that. And a lot of people begrudge professional athletes because they make too much. They say, this should go to doctors, this should go to first line workers, this should, it's not fair that these guys play in a sport, should be paid this much. But they have put in so much dedication, hours, passion, perseverance. You cannot even believe how much dedication it takes to become a professional athlete. And I don't begrudge them one penny of what they get. I think, it's fully worth it. Everybody's tuning in so much to, see these guys achieve these magic moments. And like I said, lifelong dreams are achieved. And I know how much it took these guys to make it where they've got to. And it's an absolute incredible achievement.
Well, and I think sports above the other things, and I don't begrudge, the entertainers, the actors, actresses, musicians, that have perfected their craft, getting ahead and making money as well. But I think sports, away from all the others, it's pure talent that's going to get you somewhere. There's musicians that obviously worked hard at playing guitar or drums as a kid, got better and better, and got a break to get into a band or something, or formed their band and were successful. And but there can be a lot of external sources and production taking place that aid that sound a little bit, and actors obviously can get the benefit of a lot of that, or retake after retake to get it right. Same with a musician. Sports isn't the case. It's live, it's there, it's what you're doing on that certain day to get yourself ahead and your team ahead, and it's real. I guess it's real, and that's what we love about it.
Yeah, there's no take two. There's really no take two in sports. You're right. Yeah, no, they got to get it right on the day, on the event. And thank you so much for coming and sharing your wisdom with it. This was a amazing hour and a little bit as usual. Always great. So nice to be able to break down that first round of the qualifying playoffs going into this first round. I know I took a lot of time from your Friday and your Monday, but it was really fun for me.
I'm back to the computer to get some writing done now, so all is good. Hey, I appreciate the opportunity. I thoroughly enjoy it. You're a good friend, and you're doing some great things and accomplishing a lot with this podcast. So it's the way to go, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk. I know we could do this for hours and hours, buddy, because there's just so many great things to talk about, and the ability to break it down and go in depth is the cool thing about it. We both look at those areas in what we do for a living, and I know when I go to hockey games, whether it was in Chilliwack with the Chiefs games or these games here, I'd be marking down every little thing that happened, because until the end of the game, you don't know what that leads to, that it turns out that's like the turning point or the key to the game. So you write down everything. I was having a good discussion with my son York about that the other day, of the momentum that's involved and how it can change and sway. And you just never know what changes a game and leads it in a different direction for a team or an individual to be able to win. So I like the fact we can break it down. Let's do it again sometime soon.
That's great. As I said, thanks again. This was really, really good. I can't wait to post it. And we will, we'll have a great week ahead. I'm sure you and I will talk as the Canucks game happens on Wednesday. And then, we'll see how things emerge. I'm sure we'll try to pull something like this together in the coming weeks.
Good stuff. And I had my yellow, my Linden jersey on the other day, the old yellow one with the skate. My son had his newer Canucks Sedin jersey on. So it worked the other night. We'll be keeping those on for the duration of the playoffs. So.
Good to hear. Good to hear. We need your good luck. Yeah, let's go. Go Canucks, go. All right. Thanks again, Dale. All the best.
Take care, everybody.
Yeah, take care. Yeah, that was fun. Hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. Thanks again, as usual, for tuning in. We've got some sponsorship talk coming. We're going to be able to shed some light on that in our coming episodes. So keep your eye out for that. Find me on all your podcast platforms, on YouTube, the website, and tell your friends, tell your family, like, subscribe, let the world know. Let's make Complete Sports Media a destination for sports fans around the world. Take care of yourself. Have a great week ahead. Love you lots. Bye for now.